Welcome back. All right, Alex, we got some big shoes to fill, man. Tyler kind of killed it last time we did a basketball segment, so let's see what you got.
Yeah, I'm sure Tyler did a phenomenal job. He's a person, I guess.
Thanks.
I got you, buddy. We're in the NBA Finals. It's been kind of a weird series. The fourth game just finished about 30 minutes ago or so. The Lakers squeaked out a win to be up 3-1 in the series. It was a 102-96 final. This is probably the most competitive game, I would say. Games 1 and 2, the Lakers kind of blew them out. The Heat are dealing with a lot of injury issues. Goran Dragic tore his plantar fasciitis, I believe. I'm going to, you guys, ATs over there can kind of explain that to the viewers. Bam Adebayo, who's probably been one of the better players in these playoffs so far, has a neck issue. He did come back for Game 4 here, and he had a pretty good game. We'll start with you, Ty. As our resident Lakers fan, you got your little quarter zip going on or whatever you got wearing right there. Going off that purple and gold. It's now up 3-1. You have to expect the Heat to come back and be really aggressive in Game 5, which will be on Thursday night. What do the Lakers need to do to continue and finish this thing out in 5 games?
Yeah, I mean, obviously with games 1, 2, and 4, I think it's led by LeBron James and Anthony Davis. I mean, if these guys can play up to their standards even, they're going to win this series, I think, in 5. I believe that, Game 3 was a little bit kind of an off game for both of those guys. But this Lakers team, I think, is super razor focused. I think LeBron James leading that team. He's been to so many finals. He's seen every kind of scenario, up 3-1, down 3-1, being swept. He mentally is so locked in that I think that there's just no way that the Heat can win this series after being down 3-1 or even down 2-0, honestly. The Lakers have not lost back-to-back games in the finals yet. So even if the Heat win the next game, which they might, because I think this Heat team's a great team. They're a great competitor. But I just think this Lakers team is just mentally so focused with LeBron James. Anthony Davis is playing out of his mind. I think Rajon Rondo is a huge, third wheel to that. And I think he's playing some of his best basketball he has in a very, very long time. So for me, I think this Lakers team is, as long as they're mentally locked in, they're going to win this series. I don't know if it'll be in 5 or in 6, but I think it'll be one of those two.
Yeah. Speaking about LeBron and locked in, he was tweeting out the other night that he couldn't sleep because he was so focused on the grind and so focused on moving forward. And it kind of feels like with with Kobe passing that it really feels like this should be the Lakers' year. This is the first time they've made the playoffs in a long time. First time they've been in the finals since 2010 when Kobe was a part of that team. It does really feel like it's kind of like the Lakers' destiny to win, sort of like how I mentioned I thought it was the Lightning's destiny to win. I know I missed the last couple pods, but they obviously did win. I know we talked about that on the ones before. But switching sides to Miami, James, this would have been a totally different question if Miami had pulled this one out and it was a 2-2 series instead of a 3-1 series. First off, now that it is 3-1, is there any realistic possibility that the Heat come back and win this? And if they do, what do they need to do to accomplish that?
I think Kevin Garnett said it best when he beat the Lakers in 2008 or 2007, I think it was. Anything is possible. There's always a possibility that he come back and they take this. It's bad. It's like, unless you're talking to Eric and Eric says basketball's rigged, it could be, and the Lakers win it all. But the fact of the matter is, you have to show up day in and day out, perform your best, and give it your all in order to win. And even then, that might not be enough. Sometimes luck plays a part in that too. So there's a chance that he come back and take this. That being said, we need Jimmy Butler and Tyler Hero to keep cooking. When Jimmy Butler goes off for more than 30 points, the Heat typically do well. And we saw this against the Milwaukee Bucks, who I think match up pretty well against the Lakers. So if they can take down the Bucks, theoretically, they can take down the Lakers. That being said, they don't have all their pieces. Right now, they're missing Goran Dragic. He's a long shot to come back. Playing without a plantar fascia, you can't really plant off that foot or run at all.
You don't need to do
So
that
it's
in
going to be a
basketball.
long shot. Bam came back, and he played really well last night, but he's still not 100%. So having to go up against Anthony Davis all the time, it's going to hurt him. Eventually, he's going to be worn down to the point that he can't produce as well as he wants to, which is going to be a detriment for the Heat, which means they have put in Myers Leonard, who is just not as good as Bam is. So that's unfortunate. But look, man, that's the key here. If the ball rolls the right way, they just have a shot. But Jimmy has to keep playing.
Yeah, Jimmy's obviously the leader of that franchise, and he's the best player. He's, been known on some other teams as kind of being an asshole, but he sort of fits with this Miami vibe and this kind of scrappy team that they've got down there in South Florida. You're 100% right, James. If Jimmy plays well and drops more than 30 and Bam can be that secondary scorer that he can be, and he needs to be just a monster on the defensive end. I mean, Anthony Davis is kind of like Giannis, where he's pretty much unguardable in most situations. But just like in that Bucks series, Bam, was a monster against Giannis. He needs to continue to be a monster against Anthony Davis, which is what happened in Game 3. AD was not as aggressive offensive side. He had a bunch of foul trouble, and the Miami Heat won Game 3. Eric, I'm not going to make you talk about the Lakers. I'm not going to ask you to do that. But as, kind of following off of James, focusing on the Heat, who is kind of an unheralded MVP who needs to step up to kind of continue pushing them to try to, make this series continue on? Someone that's not Jimmy or Bam or somebody that we already talked about.
I would have to go with Andre Iguodala. They got this guy at the deadline. He was, I believe, sitting on his couch when he was under the contract of Memphis.
Mm-hmm.
But he, in the past, when he was on the Warriors, shut down LeBron in the NBA Finals. It was only like one series, but he made it happen. He got the job done. I know he's a little bit older. He's been battling some injuries throughout his career. These later years of his career, but if he steps up and can play some of his lockdown defense on LeBron and get him a little frustrated, Anthony Davis is going to make his shots, but then all of a sudden the Lakers are going to have to rely on guys like Danny Green to make more than 1 3 a game, or Kuzma to do anything. But the guys like Caruso and the Lakers got some depth. It's just tough to see the Heat that they needed to win tonight. They didn't, and it's over. It'll probably be over in 5.
Yeah, I agree with you. Iggy is probably and maybe like Crowder could be another guy that you could talk about that is, again, LeBron is a little bit unguardable, just like someone like Kawhi or Giannis or AD. But the defensive end of Miami, they need to stand up to the rushes and the fast break of the Lakers. And if they do, they definitely have a shot. Traden, same question, though. It can't be LeBron. It can't be AD. Who's someone that, the Lakers need to be that maybe third scorer, someone to have kind of a big game to finish this out in 5?
Yeah, mine would have to be Rondo. In his first 3 games, and I don't know the advanced stats for the 4th game. They're not out yet on Basketball Reference. But thank God for Basketball Reference. But in the first 3 games, he comes off the bench, playing around 25 minutes on average, rounding up for game 1. And he scored double-digit points in games 1 and 2. His production was down in game 3. But he and the rest of the bench had a positive plus minus in a game where he played his most minutes. So it kind of shows that, he's doing a great job, on both sides of the ball, and he's putting up points when he's coming off the bench. To put up double-digit points when you're just playing 25 minutes, when you're also sharing the floor with AD and LeBron, it's pretty impressive. And to me, those stats kind of stand out for a bench player. And, if you have a guy that can come on and play those 25, 29 minutes, a night in relief of your big guys and put up points. Oh, and by the way, and today he shared the floor with AD for 24 minutes, and the Lakers had 117 offensive rating and 80.4 defensive rating and were plus 18 on the box score. I mean, those are stats that just show that you are a valuable player to the team. And when you're on the floor, but you could also, point to his leadership as as an older guy, as he's just great leader, in the locker room as well. So I think he's kind of your unheralded MVP. I mean, he if he continues doing what he's doing and, let LeBron and AD do their thing, I don't see how they drop game 5,
Yeah, I agree with you. Rondo is, a future Hall of Famer. His time, he did play in New Orleans with AD before, so they have had some chemistry in a previous stop. It's really, for me, it's Caruso, Kyle Kuzma, Danny Green, KCP, all those three-point shooters. If they're hitting shots, the Lakers it's really hard to beat them. I want to give a shout-out to Jess Martin. Happy birthday, Jessica. Also, apparently, she's on this podcast messaging us saying that the Rays did beat the Yankees 7-5. So that's good to know. And then real quick, I'm just going to go around just yes or no. Is this series over in Thursday night with Game 5? James, yes or no?
Yes.
Eric?
Yeah, it's over. It should have been a sweep. It's over.
Traden?
Yeah,
yes.
It should have been a sweep.
Ty?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, it seems like we're all in consensus. We all think it's over. Miami Heat had a great season. The Lakers had a great season. I'll be watching it. But that's what we got for the NBA. Same thing. I'm gonna have to start coming up with other topics to talk about because the season's gonna be over by the time we record the next podcast.
You could talk about beer. You went with all alcohols. You could.
That is true. We could get into the whole beer thing.
You should send us beer. Anyway, thanks for that, Alex.